Okay, well, next we have Rob Turnbull, who is Head of Data Solutions and Insights at Samsung Ads, and is going to tell us about the trends impacting TV. Hello, Rob.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'll maybe wait a second while the transfer of people is going on, but I'm firstly really excited to be here. Some of the other panels and discussions are really exciting, so I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of today. But this isn't my presentation. So I'd love to be Alistair and talk about on-device, but there we go. Thank you very much. So as the title suggests, I am Rob Turnbull, and I lead the data solutions team at Samsung Ads. Just as a quick introduction as to who Samsung Ads are and why I find my job in Insight so amazing there. We are the leading TV manufacturer and have been for the last 19 years. In terms of the TV OS, we're also one of the leading TV OS manufacturers. And part of that, and what makes my job so good, is we have the largest deterministic TV data set. And so understanding viewership, understanding changing consumption habits is what I do daily, and using this data set has never been better. In terms of scale, we've got 70 million addressable TVs in Europe. And because of that, again, the insight that we can gather from that is kind of amazing, and I'm excited to show you that. And we're also we've got one of the leading FAST platforms, as Max nicely gave us a shout out. Thank you very much for that. But what today I'm going to talk to you about is I'm going to give you a 10-15 minute teaser of our latest Anatomy of a Streamer behind the screens report. So we come to market every year with a thought leadership piece, a trends report, and this latest one is aptly named TV Phone Home, and it will be out in the next few weeks. Forgive the pun. Generally, we are kind of all film and entertainment buffs, and we love a pun. But within that, there are three key segments. The first being the Great Migration. That is talking about the adoption of streaming and how that's changed over the last year and continuing to grow. Secondly is fragmentation frustration. So this is all about the fragmented universe and what that might have an impact on when it comes to user experiences, which is really important for us as a consumer-centric company. And then last, we've got really interesting, important announcement to make as well around additional data from Samsung outside of the TV ecosystem that will be integrating as options for advertisers and brands in the near future. So with that, there's three key takeaways from this latest report that I'd love for you to take a picture of, take advantage of this. The three things I want you all to learn. One being that app usage on smart TVs is continuing to grow, and we don't see that slowing down anytime soon. The second being the power of the home screen. So as this fragmentation happens with more content than ever across so many different apps, actually there's a place for navigation, there's a place for discovery, and the home screen is becoming that, and we're seeing increased usage of the home screen. And lastly, the cross-device future. Understanding, I know Evan Shapiro does a really good job of this, but understanding media consumption across multiple devices and not just a smart TV is really the future of trying to understand media consumption at large and having a holistic view. So with that, I'll dive in. First, Great Migration. Obviously, where people are spending their time, and consumers in particular, in terms of their attention, in terms of their engagement, has never been harder for advertisers to really understand. Take yourself back to 2010. In 2010, I was at university. Every Sunday night, I'd sit down and I would watch The Only Way is Essex, season 1. I know that's such a bad. I know, forgive me. Season 1 was good, okay? With my housemates. It happened the same time in every week. We sat down together collectively as a community within our group and watched the same TV show. And that gave, in that era, advertisers an amazing opportunity to access mass reach audiences relatively simply. Fast forward that today, the difference in how people spend their time on TVs has never been more different. You can see here on the pie chart, segments represent each individual app across the telly, and you can see that the depreciation of linear, the growth of these apps means that TV consumption has never been more splintered. And that means advertisers and brands are finding it harder than ever to really understand how to access and reach those audiences. And Samsung, luckily, we're at the heart of this. Again, if any of you have owned a Samsung Smart TV since 2011, we've had the Smart Hub. At the time, obviously, slightly different to how it is today, but we always have been at the forefront of technology, trying to navigate and make accessing content easier for our users and for our owners. Obviously today, the navigation has never been more important for us, and it continues to be at the heart of our smart TVs, trying to improve the experience overall to make it easier for people to find content. So how do people find, how are people spending time on their TV? Max talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you weren't here for it, there has been a significant drop-off in linear. In terms of the total percentage of time on smart TVs alone, Samsung smart TVs as well in particular, and with these TVs we find them kind of at the forefront or early adopters, given the premium nature of these TVs. It sits around 35% per day. Streaming in the UK takes up about 54%, and we've seen a lot of growth there. And for the first time ever, we've been able to report on gaming. So as you can see, gaming is another growing environment on TVs, which has seen increasing amounts of time spent, sitting at about 11%. And in its nature, this is generally because when you sit down to play a game, the sessions you have are far longer. But the UK is on its own journey. And forgive me for any Americans in the room, but when you're working with North American colleagues, often they'll see Europe as one conglomerate where there is trends across the entire region. But actually, every single country is on its own journey. The UK is ahead of the game when it comes to adoption of streaming. As I said, 54% of time spent in streaming in the UK. But take Italy as an example. Italy, given the legacy of broadcasters there, maybe a late adoption of those broadcasters, the streaming apps, actually linear is still dominant in that environment, in that market. And marketers really need to take notice of these regional differences, of these market level differences, to understand how to best operate those campaigns running across the TV. But we don't see the adoption of apps going anywhere anytime soon. So we've seen more app launches in the UK market than ever before, and this has been a continuous trend for the last 2 years. Compare H1 2023, we had about 1.7 billion in app launches of streaming apps. Compare that to now, we're at 2.2. We've seen a 12% year-on-year increase, and we're expecting to see single-digit or low double-digit increases in app launches overall. And we will expect this trend to continue rising. But one maybe area that contradicts that, and I'm sure many of you have experienced your own anecdotal experience of watching your TV, is actually around the total number of apps that people use. So given July to December 2024, the average across the UK market for our devices is about 4 apps in total. So we know that app launches are going up, we know that time spent is going up, but actually there's this kind of petering off of the number of apps that people are willing to access and to get content from. And certainly in my own experience, I might use a BVOD app, 2 SVOD apps, and an AVOD app, and that would be it. I get all I want from that. And the last point in this section is when often marketers and advertisers think about apps, they think about them in 1 or 2 terms. Usually it's around reach. So the one with the highest reach is the one that gets on plans. But actually, you should take in different considerations. So reach of the Samsung universe versus time spent. Actually, there are some areas, some locations on the TV that are a lot more stickier than others. Like I said back at the start, gaming is one to really pick out. It's amazing to see how sticky the gaming environments are. There's this Goldilocks zone as well on the right-hand side of apps that are both high time spent and also high reach. And you can, although not called out here, Max called out them earlier, I'm sure you can tell which one they are. And new and emerging apps like TV Plus, our fast service, where we're seeing growth in time spent and at the minute, very high reach across all of our TVs. So what does this mean for advertisers? Obviously, one of the key areas is streaming is continuing to grow, and we're not expecting that to go anywhere. What complicates things is that audiences are now scattered across a kind of growing and larger set of apps, and that means that there's no one-size-fits-all. It makes it really difficult for yourselves, some marketers and advertisers generally, to understand how to access audiences in a single predictable way. And we think our hypothesis is this fragmentation is kind of losing customers and coming to a difficult area where there's frustration with this across the audiences. And looking at GDPR, we can see that actually That paradox of choice, the amount of content, in a world where we've got more content than ever, is leading to frustration across the audience base. 1 in 4 say they don't think it's easy to find the content they want to watch. People are spending longer finding the content they want to watch than ever before. They're not satisfied with the TV content choices they're picking, and they've actually actively reduced the amount of streaming services they have. And this is where we've seen this kind of growth in use of the EPG or home screen. What we found when we compare frequency of usage per day of the EPG versus some of the most popular apps, it's being used more and more, which kind of makes sense to me. If there's more apps being used, then the likelihood is that people need to navigate to those apps. And TV OS usage going up isn't the only thing that we're seeing. Obviously, if any of you follow Essence Mediacom on LinkedIn, they posted out their 2025 predictions, and one of those predictions was, again, that TV set usage of OSs was going up year on year, and in 2025 is expected to be the place on the TV against some of those apps that they spend the most amount of time, particularly young adults. So the way we're viewing the home screen right now, and the way that the product is producing and all the advertising opportunities, is we see the home screen as the launch pad for TV moments. It's the hub of discoverability, and it will be acting as the starting point to become more essential than ever to capture audiences across every environment. Samsung users really want to see clear recommendations, clear relevant content on their home screen. And that's why we're so keen to get things in front of them to increase the quality of their experience. Many of our Samsung owners are open-minded. They want to see ads that are curated to their interests and content, and that's the primary way. TV advertising is the primary way that they find new products and brands. So from this section, obviously the content discovery journey now is more frustrating than ever. The home screen we consider to be the launch pad of the TV moments to ease discoverability as fragmentation grows. And then lastly, audiences do appreciate relevant advertising. If you want content to get in front of audiences, if you want brands, if you want advertising messages, a home screen is a good place for it. And that brings me to my last section. So we're really excited to announce, given the convergence of what we're seeing app usage on the TV, that Samsung Ads is now unlocking mobile data for TV advertisers. So obviously, many of you will have Samsung devices, mobile devices. What we're doing first and foremost throughout this year is trying to use that collectively to try and make this understanding, this holistic understanding of media consumption, enlightening to advertisers and brands. And what this might mean in practice is, if you have a partial view previously of what someone might be doing, a consumer might be doing in their day, it might look like, they're getting up and when they're watching the news at breakfast. At lunchtime, they might be watching something on their TV if they're working from home. If not, we might miss that. In the evening, in peak time, we know exactly their viewership. Into bedtime, what are they doing? What are they watching before they go to bed? But actually, now with this mobile data set, we can track consumers across the entire day. We're looking to understand whether their mobile apps are being used in the morning to track their commute. We're going to be understanding what they're doing on their commute, what podcasts they're listening to. We're going to be understanding the peak opportunities around second screening, when the likelihood is that someone's using their TV and phone together, and then lastly, what they're doing before they go to bed. And one insight from this, just to tease you a little bit, for more announcements later this year on this mobile data set, is around tracking usage of the mobile versus usage of the TV. We can see that actually, interestingly enough, mobile usage continues to track an uptick in terms of its indexed behavioral average throughout the day. What you'll see is TV peaks the highest during your peak hours, 8 till 10 in the evening, and actually mobile usage peaks slightly after that, between 9 and 10. So one key learning from this, from an advertiser's perspective, is what can you do in that 9 to 10 period when people are likely to be second screening, using their mobile phone or having it on them, and actually, is there a way of engaging them with clickable or QR-based ads in that period of time to convert them? So from this section, obviously, it's remiss to say that new data layers to understand consumption across all screens is really important for the future of advertising. And then secondly to that, time of day is really important, understanding where people are going to be on their phones and whether you can activate around that. So the last three things of this, and hopefully I've spent enough time talking, but the last three things to take away from this, going back to the original three takeaways. The audience app migration continues to rise and streaming continues to be adopted. The power of the home screen in terms of that fragmented audience, and capturing all of them collectively is really important. And then lastly, capturing cross-device media consumption has never been more important either. And with that, please reach out to me, to the rest of the team, to get an understanding of when the white paper is going to be released and more learnings in that white paper on both mobile and our smart TV data set to come. Thank you very much.
Okay, just one very fast question. The home screen that you were talking about, where everybody's thinking about what they watch. Currently, media and entertainment companies make good use of that for advertising. Do you see that as a place for general brands?
Yeah, so we've recently made significant policy changes around the availability of those to advertisers outside of what we'd call endemic to the home screen, which is media and entertainment. So yes, I think that given that people are in a discoverability mode when they're entering that home screen, I think it's a perfect opportunity for you to get brand messages across to them when they're looking to get information.
Great stuff. All right, thank you very much.